Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I should say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because depending on where you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us on our monthly Ask Me Anything sessions. We really enjoy doing these sessions. We have so much fun talking to you and trying to answer some of your questions. I think we've done quite well so far. If you're around, if you want to type a hello in the box, please do. We try and save most of the hellos for each other because we always have lots of questions to get through. So with that in mind, whilst I'm talking about a few other things, if you have any questions, and they can be about anything. I mean, we have chosen dusk and dawn as a theme, but we always tend to sidetrack a little tiny bit, which we're quite fine with. Firstly, before I introduce our technical experts from around the globe, I would like to let you know it's Black Friday this week. Now, us Europeans took on this Black Friday promotion from the States a few years ago. And if you didn't know, there are some fabulous promotions going on. You have got up to €500 on the OM1 and the 714. If you're looking for the big white, as we call it, there's a £450 euro promotion on that too. And Michaela has put in the links. So if you were thinking of buying yourself an early Christmas present, or maybe you're treating somebody else, the cashbacks last until the 2nd of the 12th. So you don't have too long, but you have to register those cashbacks before the 16th of the 12th. So it's quite important, those little details. US and Canada have slightly different promotions than we do here in Europe, but our gorgeous Michaela has put them in there. So we'll run through them at the end again, a little tiny bit more in detail, but just keep your mind on it. It's Christmas. Why don't you treat yourself soon? Okay, putting all that aside, as I said, the Ask Me Anything tonight subject is dusk and dawn. It's that time of year, right? We're coming into winter. We're in winter. Lots of early mornings, lots of late starts. It's that whole thing where it's quite dark. So you've got a good opportunity to go out and photograph when it's actually normal hours rather than having to sort of do it at 10 at night. So to help us with today's session, we have the amazing Tito hailing from Spain. Hey, Tito.
Hey, hello. How are you, Claire? Hey, everyone.
I'm really good.
Good
How are
evening.
you?
Good evening from Spain. I'm fine. I'm glad to stay here again. I enjoy a lot of these sessions.
Yes, me too. And we love you being here and we do appreciate it, Tito. We also have hailing from Czech, our wonderful TE, Tomas. Hey, Tomas.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, I love that.
No, I was just seeing you and Tito having this OM System logo in the background, which I don't have any at the moment, but I am wearing the OM System cap.
we don't have those. That's really nice. That zip up hoodie. I'm really liking that. I did wonder. I did think your camera had gone wrong then, and I thought, what's going on? And then the reveal, the big reveal. I love it.
So anyhow, welcome everyone at this stream.
Now, a lovely Michaela, who hails from the US, has brilliantly, as always, for the last 3 months, stepped in because we're a man down, and awesomely said, yeah, I'll come on board. Thanks, Michaela. You are a star.
Always happy to help. I'm in the same boat. I've got my little logo here. This is my logo for the day, but like branded, so we're good.
My logo is the biggest. My logo is the biggest.
My logo is the biggest. So thank you all for joining us. It's a busy week. We've got lots on, and obviously we're now starting to work towards the holiday season. We're hopefully still bringing you lots of lives, lots of events, lots of Zooms. So always make sure you check out the events page. If you have the OI Share app, don't forget you get those automatic notifications to say, hey, guess what? Something's starting in a few hours. So make sure you have that app for receiving notifications, because that always helps as well. Now, we have put together a deck of images that were taken by us and a few by ambassadors. And even though we're not professional photographers, it's always really good to say, hey, actually, we go out and take pictures. We don't just talk about cameras and sell cameras. We actually go and enjoy the love and the creativity ourselves. So we're going to look at a couple of questions. So if you've got any questions, I can see there are only a couple in there. Get them in there now. But we'll warm you up with a couple of images to sort of start you off. And let's have a look. Tito, this is one of yours. Is this early morning or is this late at night?
This is early morning, very early. This is in the northeast area of Spain. It's called Delta del Ebro, where the river joined with the Mediterranean Sea, and there is a very big group of flamingos, among other birds. And this is very, very, very early. That's around just before the sun, because I love both dawn and dusk. But during the morning, these kind of pictures, I love them because you see the colors. I like the warmer and the softer light in this time, and also I try to compose orange and blue in order to create that atmosphere, that composition. Yeah, it's early morning. Probably it's 5:30, 5:45 in the morning.
What? And is this winter or summer or?
No, it was end of May. At the end of May.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And camera and lens combo. What did you use in this image?
It was taken with the OM1 Mark II and the 150-400 mils, because we were after that. I said I love the sunset, the sunrise, but also the sunset. Probably I'm more for sunset, because I can extend my shooting session to the nightscapes, Right. But in this case, also I enjoy a lot with the flying birds, and when the sun rises, I can use the 150-400 to shoot flying birds and different things. But that's why I had the 150-400 mils, and of course autofocusing with continuous autofocusing and the Bird AF AI.
So Michela, dawn or dusk? What's your preference?
Ooh, I mean, for the reasons that Tito just said, dawn is a good time, especially when you're looking for birds and stuff. Like I just got to photograph some sandhill cranes the other day, and I watched sunrise come up, and then all the birds were kind of there docile and relaxing. And then as the sun came up, and they had this great colors, and then they all kind of took off flying because they were done hanging out, But I'm like, I do enjoy that. I'm a sunset chaser, but not even for other photos other than just I want a good sunset photo. Like I love bubblegum clouds and, the purples and pinks and oranges. So that's generally what I go out and shoot. So I guess I'm probably more an evening girl.
Yeah. What about you, Thomas? Are you a morning or an evening type of photographer? What do you do?
I would say that everybody who knows me knows that I'm not an early riser. So basically, Tito, I admire you that you have taken this picture at 5:30, because 5:30 I would be like totally dead because I'm still asleep. So for me, it's quite clear. And this is also one of the reasons. It has nothing to do with dawn and dusk. It has to do with macro photography, because if you are taking pictures of these tiny insects, the best time to actually shoot insect when they are basically kind of frozen is really early in the morning.
Yes.
When they are still covered, with the tiny droplets and so on, and they don't move. So again, for macro photography, I mean, I can shoot a lot of macro pictures, but I would not be a pro because I am not an early riser.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I mean, if I have to be up early, I force myself then for sure. But I just can't get that creative that early in the morning. I mean, I'm my head is fluffy. I need the coffee. So for sure, the end of the day, it almost signals the end of a work day. And especially in the autumn and the spring, when you get those beautiful evenings where you can have a low tide and go walk. For me, that's what it's all about. Tell me in the comments if you're a dawn or a dusk person, okay?
Yeah,
let us know.
Really curious.
We should put a poll up.
I know.
Tell us if you're dawn or dusk.
Also, it depends on my favorite are both. But depending on if I want to extend the session, because in the early in the morning you can shoot macro or landscape, then you can extend the session with more landscape. But in this case, because of the day was for birds, and I have that lens, and I had to wake up so early, I made the most with that combination. But in the sunset, during the sunset, you can extend for different combination of shooting of genders. You can go to landscape during the golden hour, during the golden lights and the blue hour. Then you can go to the landscape, the nightscape. So it depends on if you're going just for one genre. For example, macro, I prefer early in the morning. If I go for star trace or light trace, I go to the sunset. It depends.
Sure.
Somebody wants to know your settings on this one,
yes.
Tito. Do you know?
Yes.
My settings for this picture?
For this image,
yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, it was because I have my notes here, and it was 250 of a second, f4.5, and ISO 1000. And also the ISO is automatic, because I usually use manual ISO white balance. The white balance is automatic. The ISO is 1000 and white balance is automatic. Sorry.
Good to know. Good to know. Right, let's get on with a couple of questions. There's some random ones, but we don't mind a bit of random. And when there are no questions, we'll show you some more images. C4 Tripamort says, is the OM5 a great camera for portraits photography? Well, any camera is great for portraits. It's always going to be about the lens that you put on the front, okay? And you can do portraits with wide angle. I mean, you only have to look at Gavin Hoey to see he does 8mm with 8mm portraits, so it depends on the style that you want. We do have some amazing portrait lenses. We have the 45 1.2 and the 45 1.8 if you're on a bit of a budget. But there are so many, the 1240, the 12-100, the 40-150. What about you, Michelle? What's your favorite portrait lens?
My absolute favorite portrait lens is probably the 75mm f1.8. I know it's a little bit more on the higher price side when it comes to our primes, but the compression of that lens is absolutely my favorite. In a pinch, or when I have my Pen F with me, I use the 45 f1.8 because it's little, it's small, and it has the nicest bokeh in the background. It's so beautiful. I can't portrait. I love taking portraits because, I'm a mom, so I'm always chasing kids around and I want it to look amazing. But yeah, 75 is my favorite. I loaned mine out and I'm still angry about it. I need to go chase it down.
Thomas, what about you? What's your go-to for the portrait lens?
I mean, obviously, is the 45 you mentioned already, whether it's 1.8, 1.2, depending on the size you want to carry with you. But I would also mention the 40-150 2.8,
yes,
because this is a brilliant, amazing, universal lens where you can use outdoors, indoors, and especially also for portraits. So if you are a kind of shooter who shoots events, people inside, I mean, definitely I would go for 12-40-2.8 and 40-150-2.8. This is a set which everybody should have who is shooting events, really.
And I think with the 45 1.8, it fits the OM5 quite nicely if you want to keep it smaller. And there's cash back on it, just so you know. What about you, Tito? What do you think? What's your choice?
I have also two choices. My favorite lenses are the 45 1.2. Absolutely. For me, it's the best. And I also use the 75 1.8, but for different composition. Maybe when I'm far away. And also the 40-150 2.8, because the depth of field, when we need a narrower depth of field, we can get it with a big wide aperture, but also with a distance. And the 40-150 allows you to go far away, and you can get a nice bokeh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm banging another drum, but that's on a big cashback as well. I don't think we have ever had an AMA session where one of us doesn't recommend the 40-150 2.8 for something.
That was the first lens I bought. Yeah,
everything, landscape. It covers birding. It covers wildlife. I mean, there isn't anything this lens doesn't do, right? So if you don't have
41, 40-150 2.8 is mandatory in any backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
So
is
that's your message out there, guys. If you don't own that lens yet, that's your Christmas gift to yourself, your holiday present, whatever you're doing, go get it.
exactly.
It doesn't really cover macro, but it covers close-up. So if you are not into time macro, but you are shooting butterflies, flowers, and so on, even 41-52.8 is the lens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
focuses pretty close. And you
70
compare it with the
centimeters.
teleconverters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly. And we used to have this when we do Coffee with the Clares, we used to ask if you had 10 seconds to grab one camera and one lens, what would you grab? And it's always the 40-150. Always. So
Absolutely.
I know, guys, we may sound like we talk about it a lot because it's blooming brilliant. Okay, we have a question. Oh, sorry, I put you down and put you back then. I'm not going to pronounce that. Good day, Peter from Australia here. Hello, South Australia. Good day, Peter. Just curious if there is a way to have the 4 custom modes on the OM5 set to one button that we can toggle through while holding the button and turning. A good question. We know the answer. Tito, take over on this one.
Yeah, we know the answer. We can have 4 custom modes in the OM5, but we cannot assign. We can have those 4 custom modes in one button. Even we can have it. We can have them in 4 different buttons because on the dial, on the top dial, we have the C mode, and if we customize the other 3, we can assign the other 3 buttons for each. We can have for example, the exposure compensation button for C2, ISO for C3, but we can have 4 custom modes on the dial, and also we only have 1 C mode on that dial from factory. Yeah.
I mean, any of these sort of queries we do forward to Japan. Obviously, we don't know if it's on their schedule to add in R&D. Obviously, are building and making and delivering and inventing lots of things. Not sure if this is on their radar, but always good to know. So, hope that's answered.
Yeah, but there is.
Go on.
Yeah, there is a second question in the same question because it's saying if you can toggle through while holding the button and turning the dial. Now, you can't do that because most of our functions have variables, have different parameters, and when you press the button and turn the dial, you are switching from those parameters. So you cannot go through to different C modes.
But honestly, it is a great question because it is on my and other people's wish list for some time already. As basically this should work similar to, for example, if you are choosing subject, right?
Yeah.
If you are choosing subject detection from birds, mammals, flights, and so on, just pressing one button and then dialing, then if we have the option, maybe sometime in the future, I don't know if it's even possible, but if yes, I would love it as well. So thanks.
I'll put that down for you for Santa. See if Santa will listen. Yeah, I mean, we'll add it to the comments. Any of the comments that you do make that aren't available on features, we do send a report to Tokyo. And as I said, it is always about prioritizing if it's possible, how much it is, blah, blah, blah. So these comments are noted. And so that's why it's always good to ask. So thank you for that, Peter. Let's have another look at some images and then we can wait for some more questions to come in. Okay, next one. Oh, sorry, I need to just turn that off. Sorry, my Alexa just came on then, very noisy. Unswitched that. So this is backlighting. Now, who doesn't like backlighting? The joy about backlighting is you can stay out late, just when normal light loses and you're sort of shooting normal stuff and you think, oh, the light's gone a bit flat, I'm not going to get anything. This is when you can start getting a bit creative. Now, this is one of Tesney Ward's images, one of our ambassadors. So unfortunately, I don't have the settings. But you can see she's got really low, in line with the bird, probably using the articulated screen to get that really low angle and just waiting for the sun to peak. So you've got those beautiful feather lit in the background, lovely reflection. But again, this is perfect for like early weather or early morning or dusk, so I love a bit of backlighting. What about you, Tito?
This is one of the the modes I love more, backlight, I love to play with the backlights. Also in landscape, in wildlife, in birding, and whatever. When I into the forest, when I see backlight, I also try to get the silhouettes or the shadows, because when we talk about golden lights, golden hours, blue hour, we usually think about landscape, but when the sun rises, or before the sun rises and before the sun sets, and after the sunset, there are many other genders we can make the most with that lights.
I agree.
Into the forest, as I said, and in the hydro hide, I don't have much experience on the hydro hide. I have used twice, 3 times, and that's great because you're the owner of the light. You can move around, you can go slowly to the swan, or you can move the light. You can have the backlight and also the light in the front. So I love this kind of bit of photography. I love it.
Wonderful. Thomas, do you like a bit of backlighting and a bit of
I sure do. I sure do. I have just one small tip, because you can achieve similar type of images which we are seeing now, even during, let's say, the mid of the day when there is strong light. Because then when there is strong light, usually you would just not take the camera, you would not take pictures and so on, because everything is too lit, right? But what you can do is you can underexpose strongly. You can go to -2, -3. And basically you get similar picture like this. So basically normally green bushes in the background and so on get even darker. So they're almost black. And the animal, in this case, the swan, would be lit. Only the parts which are really strongly lit will really be highlighted, and the other parts will get kind of shadow and so on. So similar image can be done even during daylight. No, it doesn't have to be sunrise or sunset. Right.
Yeah, it's so true. I love a bit of underexposing. What about you, Michelle? I saw you nodding away there.
Oh, I was just agreeing with Tomas.
Yeah, it's so nice to underexpose, like you say, when it's fully contrasty, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I like going back to the previous comment about portraits, like I did this year, all of my nieces, my kids, everybody graduated high school, so I did a ton of senior portraits this year, and we pretty much exclusively did it in the evening golden hour, and there's a whole series of images with even like people where they have that nice rim light around the hair and the sun setting behind them, and it's kind of got that golden glow. And like Tito said, you can really kind of move around. Like I kind of get low and bring the light up behind their heads, but then it's like, we kind of turn over to this area, turn around, and now you've got that soft orange light on the skin and kind of go back and forth. So it's nice that golden hour really is the golden hour for a reason, right? Like it's the perfect time to go out and photograph, because every angle you turn to, you've got a completely different image than the last one you just took. So I'm definitely a huge fan, and I love the backlit. And even like to Tomas's point, like in the daytime, like I'm a big fan of stopping way down and getting the starburst through the trees, like the sunburst, the lens flares. It's funny, I saw a question about minimizing lens flares, and I specifically shoot to enhance and get more lens flares.
Okay, let's get to that one in a minute, shall we? Let's have another look at another image. Tito, is this one of yours?
Yeah, this is also mine. This day I went, when I go out to the forest during the evening, I was shooting some fungi, into the forest. And when I was leaving during this hour, the sky was not so pretty. There were some clouds, but I didn't have that. So I thought this is time to extend the exposure time, to use our lifetimes, our live modes, long exposure live modes. And this is a handheld shooting. Do you remember before we have been talking about the pareidolias? This is like a head of a fish in the foreground.
Yes.
Did you see fish?
Right. So basically, pareidolia means when you look at something and you see a face or you see an image, the piece of toast and Jesus Christ, or a cloud that looks like an elephant. This is what pareidolia means. So we were talking about this earlier. So it does look like a bit of a fish head, doesn't it?
Yeah,
looks like a shark fin to me.
Yeah, it's a fish. it's a fish, just the head of the fish coming out from the water.
I love it.
Yeah,
Well,
and
with that-
I need it because you see the water, the surface of the water has nothing. So I needed something in the foreground, some milestone, something to create composition. But this is a handheld 6-second handheld picture.
Okay. And this is live ND, right?
This is Live ND, right?
Okay.
Live ND,
So
handheld Live ND. I do not remember. It's Live ND 32, Live ND 16, no longer.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, we have a question from Trevor talking about live ND. So let's try and sort of make it a bit relevant. Trevor says, "Hi, Trevor. How are you? Long time no see. I was doing some waterfall photography and experimented with live ND and also high res mode. Both will smooth the water. Which do you recommend?" But good question. I suppose it depends on the size of the file that you want, right? Because if you want a big file, like a huge file, then maybe you want to do the high res. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you can have a longer exposure with live ND without things blowing out, whereas high res basically enhances everything, doesn't it? You know, so you're going to get better contrast, better detail in the shadows and stuff like that. So there are sort of subtle differences between the two. But of course, obviously with live ND, a 60-second exposure will not overexpose, whereas with you use the 60 seconds exposure with high res and without filters, then you would get overexposure. Thomas, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely use Live ND with OM1 or OM1 Mark II already. High res mode with OM1s is also okay if you have updated your firmware, because I mean, in the past, basically, in the water, when you are shooting waterfalls with high res mode, it could have some kind of tiny artifacts because the water was not like composed properly. I mean, it wasn't really visible, you know, only those who really pick up on things like myself could see some tiny little fractals, you know, which were not composed properly. In that case, Live ND doesn't do it. Live ND is like 100% perfect. It looks amazing. But now, if you have the latest firmware for high-res mode, it is perfect as well. But I would still use Live ND because you can choose all the types of ND filters. It's up to 64 with OM1, up to 128 with OM1 Mark II, as you said. So yes, I mean, Live ND is definitely for moving water. Absolutely.
Yeah, you've definitely got a bit more scope with that, haven't you, for sure? So I'm going to quickly go back into this, and I'm going to throw this at Michaela just quickly. How about a few tips to minimize lens flare? So we expand lens flare.
That is so funny. Yeah, no, I would say embrace the lens flare and get more lens flare. It adds some, you know, dynamic artistic creativity to your image. I'm a huge fan, but you know, minimizing it. I mean, you have your basics, right? I mean, use your lens hood, start there. I mean, that's the basic one that I can say. If you're not, oh, my light just went out, guys. Oh, no. If you aren't using your lens hood, or if you're like me and you smashed it into the side of your car door, you know, get a new lens hood. You know, don't stop down too much. That's going to give you your starburst looks. And then it's really moving your body, you know, I mean, getting into the position and pointing, depending on where you're pointing your lens, is going to have a great effect on your lens flare. Except for when it comes to the 7-14. I don't know, Tito or Tomas, if you have any recommendations for minimizing lens flare on that lens or not.
Tito, over to you.
Yeah, to minimize the lens flares, beside the what we as manufacturers do our best to minimize it. The point when you have a very wide angle lens like our 7-14, and you don't want those artistic results from that, you have to move the angle of view, you have to move the camera, you have to change your light source in the composition, because it's not easy, because it's a physical phenomenon. So but I would say if you move just a little bit, you will change dramatically the result, and you will minimize the flares. But there is nothing to do if you have the light source in front, even if you have it outside of the composition, out of the frame. the lens flare sometimes cannot be avoided.
Right, Michelle, if you replaced the bulb in your
I
lamp.
fixed my light. Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to do
You like it?
quietly.
I like too. Yeah, I like too sometimes.
This is live, guys. Anything can go wrong. This is all about the live shows. We're human and it happens.
I have a tip. I have a tip because the flare is most of the time is colored. If you move a little slightly, you can move the flare to any area on the frame, on the scene where it is minimized or dissimulated.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right. Okay. Let's have another look at another image, shall we? I love this. This again is by one of our ambassadors. And again, I would imagine it's a very similar image that you showed earlier with the flamingos. I think the joy about flamingos is they're so graceful in their shape that they
Same
give
day,
off this.
Claire. It's the same day.
Is it really?
It's the same day, same place. Yeah, because I know that place.
Beautiful.
It's the same place. Yeah.
And I love the fact that the sun is caught in this image, right? Rather than it being behind the scenes. This to me is just absolutely stunning. The flamingos just, I know other birds will do. I'm not saying that, but flamingos just have this incredible shape that they lend to this beauty and this poise. And I absolutely love this image. What about settings?
I don't know. It's not mine.
We know for sure it's taken with the 150 to 400. We know for sure it was auto white balance, but there has been a tiny bit of warming up in post-processing. So I don't know too many of the settings. Apologies, I didn't get them. I should have. I love this image. So talking about white balance, as we would in an image like this, DigiBirder is asking, what is the favorite white balance for sunrise and sunset? That's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it does depend on the weather in the UK for sure. Because if you've got a really clear, bright night, you probably go to auto. Well, I would probably go to auto. But sometimes I do actually like to add in a little bit of cloudy, just to give a little bit of drama. What about you, Thomas? What's your tips for white balance?
I mean, the color temperature, the usual typical one of this type of, let's say, orange, what we perceive as orange, is around 3000 kelvins, right? So basically, you can set it up in the menu of the camera. You don't just need to. Actually, I can show it to you in the menu very quickly.
Perfect.
Let me just switch to the to my camera now.
And then you can add yourself in.
The question is which one is the one that here we go.
There he is.
So if you go to the setup, then basically the basic setting is white balance auto. This is what you can actually leave on like almost all the time, especially if you are shooting raw data. So if you are shooting raw or raw plus JPEG, you can always go and change the white balance in the post-processing in the computer. But if you just want to set it up directly in Spot, you can choose one of these, where you can see that there is a symbol, and the symbol shows that this is a 5300, but this is a daylight. This is not sunset or sundusk, right? So you should actually go to somewhere around 3000, which is a regular bulb. And this is the color temperature of the sunset or sun. What's the second? What's the other name in English?
Sunrise and sunset.
Sunrise.
But again,
or you can also go and set it up basically manually here. If you go to custom white balance, and then you need to press info. Where we go? In the left side, here we go. And then I can switch from whatever Kelvin temperature I want to. So I can manually, I'm using the roller. I'm using the roller now, the front roller, and I can go manually to 3000. Actually, it is somewhere around 2800 to 3000. So anything out of these two you choose, then you should be okay in the sunset or sundusk. Yeah.
Amazing. And again, it's always down to a little bit of personal preference. But like you say, if you shoot raw and you forget to change any of those, you have got that option in post to change that sort of stuff. So I think the joy about shooting early in the morning and late at night, there is a little tiny bit of artistic license which you're allowed to have. These are the two times when you can push the colors a little bit, maybe warmer or maybe bluer if you're in the blue hour. So I do think this is the one place where artistic license allows you to be a bit more creative in that space. So
yeah,
we hope that helps.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And I also always recommend, like, if you have the time, right? Like you're saying, even kind of piggybacking off of our last AMA, the creativity session, sunset is one of my favorite times. Like if I'm doing landscapes or just kind of capturing the sunset, is, you know, really playing with all of the different white balance settings. You know, if you're shooting in JPEG plus RAW, you're fine because you'll always have that original RAW. But sometimes, like you're saying, pushing it towards the blue, or even just trying the different pre settings that we have in the white balance to get just kind of funky colors. You know, it's bringing out a little bit of drama that you wouldn't have normally. And I just think it's fun.
And they're absolutely right. It's that one time when you're allowed just to be a little bit naughty and to change the color a tiny bit if you want to. Okay, so this is one of mine. I love a silhouette, a landscape silhouette. I am nuts for it. So I've underexposed. This is when we were in the the Peak District a few months ago. We were running a workshop with Phil Norton, and we went up there. And basically, it's at that point where you're now saying, "Yeah, we can't take any more pictures. We need to leave." But I just love the rocky formations. I love the pink sky. This is taken with a 40 to 150 and zoomed right in. I have underexposed a tiny bit because I wanted the drama, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but again, it's about exploring what you like, what you get a feel for. And so the ISO would have been on auto. I don't think I ever come out of auto unless it's 200, and this would have gone up quite a bit, but obviously you're still shooting into the sun. So this is about 12,000 ISO. It's quite dark. It's now 7-8 o'clock at night, you know, so it's really are losing the light. But again, very simplistic, and it's sort of my type of photography. So talking of that, Digi Birder asks, what ISO do people use for sunrise and sunsets? And again, I think this is on an OM1 series camera. Obviously, the ISO is pushed way out. You've got much, much, much larger spec of choosing and pushing. And this is why we chose sunrise and sunsets, because on the OM1 series cameras, you can push that ISO. You can stay out longer and later to take the images you want. So Tito, what about you? Where do you start when you're talking about ISO for sunsets and sunrises? What's your starting point?
I use usually, as you said, it depends on what you're looking for, depending on the result you're looking for. I like in the sunset and sunrise. Thomas has explained how to get the compensation. If you have the golden hour and the blue hour, those lights are warmer. If you want to compensate that, you go to 3,000, 4,000, and it will take more blue. It will place more blue, so you will get a daylight. But I like warmer result. I like, as the flamingo ones, I like orange. So to potentiate, to push that orange, that warm colors, I increase the ISO to 6,600, 6,500 ISO. So I will get more orange and more yellower than the previous one. Yeah, it depends on when you're looking for what you're looking for. For example, in the nightscape, if you want to shoot into the stars on the Milky Way, I do it in the reverse. I go to 4,000 in such a way I get bluer and a more purple sky in the night. Yeah. If you want, the white balance is to compensate the color cast of the scene. But if you want to keep the color cast because you're lighting with a candle or with the sun or the moon, if you want to keep it, you have to tell the camera that that's what you want. That's that. So I use warmer, higher white balance, 6,000, more than 5,000, 5,300, 6,000, 6,500, in order to get those orange and yellow color cast.
What about you, Thomas? What's your reasoning on the ISO? Where do you go with it? Oh,
Thomas
We've lost
muted
you, Sam.
himself. He's done.
Oh,
Don't-
you
don't-
mean you've
Don't talk so
Oh,
loud.
sorry.
Don't talk
Sorry,
so loud.
It was just my dog. My dog was barking. Probably someone in front of the house. So I muted myself, so that you don't hear my dog barking. But anyhow, I also want to say that there's actually quite a lot of aspects to this, because obviously it depends whether you are using wide-angle lens for landscape photography of sunset, or if you are shooting birds, as Tito was showing us, with telelens. But in general, basically, you can count on one fact, and that is image stabilization, which actually helps you use ISO like even 200. If I was shooting landscape with sunset, with very low light, I would still keep 200 to 400 ISO, because I'm 100% sure that I can handheld with the wide-angle lens 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. And there are people who can hold more, more than that. So with the image stabilization, which is built in OM1 cameras, I mean, this is absolutely not an issue. And there is second point to that, which obviously has to do with the software which you are using for developing the images later on. And that is, it started like 2 years ago. All the new software, whether it's from us or for Adobe, Photoshop, Lightroom, DxO, and many others, they are using, let's say, artificial intelligence for diminishing the noise, still keeping the details, still keeping the sharpness. So even if you are shooting ISO 25,000 and more, you can still get an amazing image thanks to this wonderful software which is available today.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah.
Good on you guys. Lots of good help there. Go on, Tito. Sorry.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say anything. No.
Okay. So, quick question from Will. The Will of D. I love that. I was wondering any recommendations for lenses focusing on capturing sunrises. So, okay, so let's talk about this. If you've got a sunrise and the sun is moving, where do you focus? Right, that's the first point. Where you focus on something static, because you wouldn't just point the camera at the sun. Well, you might, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't. But generally, I would focus on something static. Tito, what about you?
Yeah, if you're waiting for the sunrise and you don't have the sun, you will never. I never focus on the sun. I focus on the subject of interest. In that case, the flamingos are my subject of interest. So I focus on these flamingos, because the sun will. If the sun is hidden, I have the light before the sun rises. When the sun rises in the second flamingos picture, I have the flamingos on focus. The sun is a light bulb, just a light bulb for the composition. I focus on the background, on my subject. Yeah.
Michaela?
It's different.
Yeah, similar. Oh, go ahead. Go, Tito.
Yeah.
No, I'm so sorry. I was
You paused.
giving you another example because it's different. For example, if you want to have the astro focus, for the moon, for example, that's different. That's a different case. Sorry, Michaela.
No, it's okay. You owe me one. No. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I always try to, when I'm doing sunrises or sunsets, honestly, I always try to have a point of interest that is in my foreground. Sometimes that's a gnarly tree that's got branches, or even sometimes the clouds, right? If you have the right definition in the clouds with the right shadows, you can kind of focus there. I tend to try to find something in the landscape. Same with my night skies. When I first started doing starry skies, I jumped right in and just took a picture of the sky, and I was really proud of it. But at the end of the day, it's just a picture of stars. So I've kind of slowly taken that time to go back and really bring the landscape around me into the images. Obviously, when you're doing the stars, you're focusing on those, not the foreground. But with sunsets, that you want that background to be soft and kind of painterly. So you want your foreground to be that main focus and that just soft bokeh background of the sunrise.
Yeah,
that's how I would do it, because I'm an expert.
Thomas, what about you?
Yeah, I was just about to show you maybe just again a little tip. Basically, if you are using your camera, I'm just holding my OM1 now. Then obviously you want to choose your focusing point. And what you do not want to have there is the full or all screen focusing point, which is this one, because then the camera basically doesn't know if it should focus on the tree on the left bottom corner, or in the middle, or on the hill in the background. So it doesn't know it. So basically what you do is you use either front or back dial, and you make your focusing point smaller, a lot smaller. It very much depends. I mean, I would usually, for the landscape, use this one. And then I would point it somewhere. For example, if I would want this to focus at the tree, then I would go there. Or if I am focusing in the middle, then I'm going here. Or if I'm focusing in the background hill, then this is what I would do. But never use the, let's say, what is it called? All points focusing point,
yeah.
Because then it just doesn't know where you want to focus.
Yeah.
And there is
Agreed.
also one little tip. If you have not updated your firmware of your first OM1, if you are owner of first OM1, then please do so, because this is one of the things that is being solved. Because OM1 Mark II already had it in the firmware, and OM1 first, if you update to new firmware, then it will start focusing, even with all points type of focusing screen, it will start focusing in the middle. Not like on the closest subject, which can be grass or something that's very close to you, which is something that you don't want to. So you always, if you are using the all points area, you always want the camera to start focusing in the middle. And this is what we already have in OM1 Mark II. And we have it in OM1, the first one, once you update the firmware. So please do not hesitate and update the firmware as soon as you can.
I love that. Do your housework, as I call it. Do your housework. Okay, let's have another look at a few more issues. We've only got about 10, 15 minutes to go. We have a couple of more questions, which we will get to in a minute. I wanted to show this one, although you can't see it very well. This is the murmurations. And in the UK, this is the time of year when starlings murmurate, right? It's all over the web. If you can find... this is in Brighton, and one of the reasons I wanted to show you this image, there's two there. This is the pier at Brighton. It is the place to go for murmuration. So if you're in the south or if you're heading down that way, this is the perfect time. It's nice and chilly. You know, get a hot chocolate from the cafe and head down to the beach, and you'll see lots and lots of people there photographing the murmurations. And not only is it incredible to watch, you can get some really interesting images. This isn't the best image. This is one I quickly just pulled off of my my hard drive. But again, perfect time of year for this type of photography. And again, you don't have to be, you know, super technical about it. You can do a little bit in post if the color's not right. And again, this is something I really like. What about you guys? Do you do murmurations? Because murmurations tend to be dawn or dusk. Michelle, ever taken any pictures of murmurations? Never seen one?
Nope.
Wow. We'll have to get you over here and get you.
I was going to say, you got to invite me over, Claire.
I love that idea. Thomas, have you ever taken pictures of these starlings that flock together like murmurations?
Not really. I'm just wondering about the English word murmuration. Is it like migration, or is it something different?
No, so murmurations are when the same type of bird all come together. So when I get here, I would get here at, say, like 3 o'clock, and then maybe you'll get 100, 200. And then after 1 or 2 hours, there are thousands, and they all basically flock together in these incredible dancing movements. So we call them murmurations. And November is the time. This is the perfect time. In fact, this was taken on the 22nd of November last year. And if you're in the south, or if you know where there's murmurations, it is, even if you don't get to take any pictures, it's the most incredible sight to see. Tito, what about you? Any murmurations for the evenings?
No, I've seen that. I haven't taken any picture of that. I know. I didn't know that it's called murmurations in English. We call starling dance or something like that.
Oh, nice! A starling dance. I love that.
Starling
That's
dance.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's it. I had not the opportunity to shoot it, but I've seen that, and they say that the starling dance, the murmurations, announces the autumn. Because the starlings start to dance, and they migrate from the outside from the city to the city, looking for the warm. I don't know, but that's what I have read. The starling dance announces the autumn, the fall season. Yeah.
Oh wow! Because I think ours is more the winter. Because I said now we will be in winter, sort of, coming in. So, but yeah, as I said, this is the perfect sunset photography. I mean, obviously you can get sunrise as well, but they tend to go out morning and night. And as I said, if you are in the UK and you're in the south coast, this is a hot spot because they love the pier. The pier obviously is a wreck. There's nothing left of it, but it's just an incredible sight. So if you are about, do that. So let's go to a question from Ozzy. Ozzy M2 says, do you have tips to balance out the exposure during the dawn? Oh, someone's having a cough there. I took a picture of the mountain during the sunrise, but struggled to get enough details on the woods without overexposing the sky. Tito? You could use live GND. I suppose there is that option to filter if you have an OM1 Mark II. Again, that can bring the sky exposure down a little tiny bit if you have an OM1 Mark II. What other tips do you have, Tito?
No, I will say in this case you need to have a GND filter physically, or if you have a OM1 Mark II, you can use the built-in GND filter on the camera, because you will compensate you will balance the overexposure horizon to the woods in the below the horizon. That's what I will advise you to use the GND or a gradient neutral density filter in the camera.
Thomas, what about you? What have you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Tito. I'm just wondering if actually a GND filter works with HDMI, which I'm not sure. Let me just check.
I think GND. Oh, yeah, I think GND does. You've got the wrong camera.
I'm sorry, I have the first OM1. I don't have my OM Mark II.
You've got an OM1 Mark I there, haven't you? Not an OM1 Mark II.
I can show you.
Oh, well,
Let me see. Yeah, that's my camera. I have the GND filter. Yeah, and it's in the bottom. I have the GND in the bottom. So if you go to the menu, you have it here in the computational modes, live ND, live GND shooting, and you can activate it from here. You can select the GND number from here, the filter type, blah blah blah. But if you assign that filter to a button, in this case I have it here in the front dial, in the front button, ND and GND. When I press the button, I activate the GND. When I press and hold the button, I can change the filter type with the front dial and the GND with the rear dial. If I press again, I can change the exposure parameters. And if I press and hold, I go out. That's the and sorry, let me show you also, when you activate this with the dials, you can change the angle with one dial, the front dial, or fine tune with the rear dial. If you press OK and hold, you reset that, and you can also move with the finger in the touch screen, with the joystick, with the multi-selector, with the arrow keys. You have many tools to move the I don't know how it's called this point, the locking point, something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say if you don't have an OM1 Mark II, Aussie, buy yourself one. It's cash back on. If you don't have an OM1 Mark II, then maybe a polarizing filter, because that will obviously bring the exposure of the sky in a bit, right? So there are some external things you can do, but obviously if the lens is naked and doesn't have any filtration on it, then you do struggle, because you've got really dark woods, which the camera's trying to expose for one, really bright skies, and obviously the camera will do this auto thing where it will give you an exposure for sort of the both. And so there are other options, but for sure, GND. Go on, Michelle.
If you have, one of the older cameras too, I mean, it's not going to give you the same effect as the GND. Obviously, the GND is a great new tool, and I'm very excited about it. But I've used in the past, especially because I shot the EM1 Mark III for years, and when I'm in situations like that, the internal HDR modes actually work pretty well for that as well. And it's like bracketing, but it brackets in camera and gives you a flattened image with, more dynamic range. It's not perfect. Like, if you have a really blown out sky and a really dark wood, it's not going to be completely perfect, but you're going to get more of both of those. And I always tend to kind of underexpose it a little bit so I don't blow out the sky too much. But it does work in a pinch to get a little bit more range in your image for sure. It's not going to be the same as GND, but it will work if you have one of the older cameras, and most of our models have the HDR mode built into it.
Yeah, so and I definitely agree that if you shoot raw, the joy about shooting raw, and I always shoot a third under, means that you can use your shadow and highlight control in post to bring them both back in a little tiny bit if needed. Okay, we've only have 5 minutes left. This hour has flown by. There's a couple of more questions so rather than then we're going to have a quick look at some images that Thomas has got. So Andrew Schachter says on a 400, which I'm assuming means a 300 f4, using a 2x magnifier, is the automatic focus slower? Now, we're talking about a 2x magnifier or a 2x converter?
Converter.
I'm assuming converter.
I would say converter. So for sure, yeah. I mean, it's going to slow the lens down. It's not super slow. The 300 f4 is one of the 3-4 lenses that we have which has image sync. So they are faster than the other range, but for sure it will slow it down a little bit. What's your feelings on this, Thomas?
No, I'm just wondering, maybe he's talking not about 300, but maybe
300 for sure.
It is probably 300. Yeah. Yes, I mean, every single time you put teleconverter, it slows. I mean, but you will not recognize it. If from technical point of view, if you measure it in the laboratory, it is slower. But once you start using it, you don't really see the difference. You cannot. I mean, the human perceptions are not that fast to actually make the difference. So. You would not realize it really. Use the 2x converter, no problem at all. And
and the benefits of the focal length outweigh the slightly slower use of the 2x, right? Because you're getting sort of 600, and then you're doubling up. It's a super long focal length for what you're getting on that f4. It's such a crazy focal length by the time you put that 2x. But yes, it will slow it down a little tiny bit. So
but still, one great thing is, that is that even with the 2x converter, you can handheld, thanks to the stabilization again, you can handheld any kind of telelens which we have, even the 150-600, which is equivalent of 1200 millimeter lens. You can easily handheld even with the 2x converter. So I mean, if you don't have that lens, go to your local photo store. I mean, try it in the spot. And you will be amazed. Really, the stabilization is, to me, it's like a miracle. I mean, I'm getting used to it still, even though I'm with the company for ages. But really, compared to a couple of years ago, the stabilization works amazingly.
Well, let's talk about focus limiter, right? Michelle, is that what you?
That's what I was. Yep, I was pointing at the focus limiter.
So, and the focus limiter is the distance of where you're shooting. So, if you want to speed up that autofocus, if you've got a 2x on, you can preset those distances in the menu, or you can use the lens switch, which allows you to cut the distance or cut the scanning that the lens has to do to enable you to get your picture. So that can speed up your AF. Tito, sorry, what were you going to say, my lovely?
Yeah. I was going to say, sorry, that I think it's not a matter of optics, it's not a matter of mechanism of focus, but when you use the MC20, the 2x teleconverter, you're losing some light, maybe you're losing some accuracy on the focus, and you're getting a harder situation to make the focus. It's not because the teleconverter is not involved on the focusing system. The focusing group optics is in the lens, but you're getting worse lighting conditions in such a way the camera is a harder condition to focus the scene. I think that's the reason. So you can slow down, but the scene is bright. If you have good light conditions, you will not see any difference. But if you're in the dark between in the sunset, during the sunset, and you will close the f-stop. You have to use they are harder conditions, and that's why maybe you can you can experience slower focusing time.
Okay, cool, great stuff. Right, we have one more question. It's two more questions, but it's the same question, and it's about high-res mode. So Sandy says, do you use the high-res function? And DigiBirder says, is 14-bit high-res mode a good for sunrise or sunsets? Well, my point about high-res, and I love high-res, especially handheld, because I like hiking and I don't like taking a tripod. It's amazing. If you want detail, but also high-res enables a little bit more contrast, a little bit more saturation. And for sure, you can use it on macro. You don't actually necessarily have to stick with it for landscapes. But yeah, I absolutely love it. It's a fabulous feature. And it means if you want big, super big prints, again, high-res gives you a 50 megapixel image, or 80 if you're using a tripod. So absolutely, you should be using it. Michelle, thoughts on high-res mode?
Yeah, I mean, I use high-res mode for a lot of different things. I'm on your team with the handheld because I don't usually use a tripod, with the exception of I actually use high-res mode for my moon photography a lot. Nice. And I was taught a trick by one of our ambassadors to use the handheld high-res on a tripod, and it actually works because you at that mega magnification, right? You're getting shake and little things like that. So it actually works better than the tripod, which I don't think we're officially allowed to say, but yeah, no. Yeah, no, I love high-res mode. And like you were saying with the saturation, so the cool thing about high-res mode, especially when it comes to sunsets, right, or like any sort of landscape, is as it's shifting, doing the pixel shift, it's resampling the RGB colors each time. So you're actually getting more color in your image as well. So it's not just more dynamic range or more data, like bigger files. You're actually getting more image. You know, so it's definitely something, if you haven't tried it, try it. And if you're using, you know, any sort of software, you've got so much more wiggle room to work with there in your post-processing. So definitely a fan of high-res mode.
Okay, Thomas, what do you think on high-res?
Agree and agree.
That's simple.
I totally agree. I totally agree with both of you. And especially if you are in landscape photography, then definitely use it. I mean, because there are so tiny little details, and there are thousands of them everywhere. If you're shooting trees, forests in the background, I mean, grass, everything, it's so tiny, it really deserves the detail, you know. So yes, for landscape, 100%. I agree.
Okay, Tito, you have the last word of this, and then we're going to have a couple of images from Thomas, and then we're going to say goodbye. Tito, last words on high-res.
Yeah, you have said almost everything. I agree 100%. I will also add that when you need more dynamic range, more color accuracy, if you don't have enough long focal length and you need to crop a detail, you will get much more, a bigger file, and you will be able to crop without compromising the image quality. I will say that's a great. I use high-res. I use very oftenly.
Right, now I'm going to get Thomas to show an image that we talked earlier about parabolia, if you all remember what that was.
Yeah, let me just
flick through. Now you have to put in the comments what you think you see in the sky, just for a bit of fun. These are all incredible images taken early and late, but we are looking for this image. This is
the second fish for today.
Tito. Shush, Tito. We need you to put in the comments what you think you can see in the sky there, because that's pretty cool, right?
Actually, it's not a fish. It's not a fish, right?
It's not a fish, exactly. It might have been
a mammal.
But, so, guys, come on quickly. And while I quickly talk about the cashback promotions and the trade-ins, if you're looking online, you can tell us what you think is in that session. So I'm going to quickly run through some cashbacks, okay? The OM1 Mark II, the 7 to 14, the 1240, the 150 to 600, the 150 to 400, they're all on cashback. We've got some really good deals on the OM1 Mark II at the moment, but also the 825, the 40 to 150 and 300 euro cashback. And if you have thinking about putting that 40 to 150 in your bag, maybe this is the time, okay? As I said, The cashback ends on the 2nd of the 12th, so it's only about 6 days away, and you will have to put your claim in before the 16th of the 12th. And so Shayla will pop those promotions just one more time in the chats.
Done.
And we go. There we go. So has anybody put in there? What people put in there? Let's have a dolphin cloud. Yes.
But I think Cameron Weir is the winner. He put shark. Thanks, Cameron.
We love the dolphin. Very cool. We got some lovely actions there. Very cool. Look, catch action.
Behind the dolphin, you have a orca.
Yes, exactly. So
Somebody saw a face, and now that they said that, I totally see it. The white spots are the eyeballs, and it looks very angry.
It's wonderful. Oh, guys, I love this image. Thank you so much. It's so much fun. But yeah, it says I see 2 blue eyes and an angry-looking nose. Behind the dolphin, you have an orca. Oh, okay. I can't see that. That's amazing, guys. Time's up. We've run over. I want to say a massive, massive, massive thank you to Michaela. This is the 3rd time, 3 months running, that she jumped in last minute. I think we should just have you on as standard all the time, right? Thank you, Michaela. You are an absolute angel, and we love you. Thank you so much for joining us. A big thank you to Tomas, as always. Your technical knowledge and your knowledge just blows my mind. It's incredible. Always great to listen to you. Thank you for joining us. And Tito, hailing from Spain, we love you too. And thank you so much for bringing your gorgeous charm and your knowledge. And we look forward to seeing you. So, guys, that's it from us. Don't forget to check out our events page. There's loads of stuff going on. If you just bought a camera, there's always menu classes in all the languages. Tito runs them in Spanish, Michaela runs them, Thomas runs them in their all local languages, but there's lots of stuff in English as well. Just want to say thank you so much. We'll see you again next month, and this will be the last one for the year on our Christmas special edition. Going to be fun. Please make sure you join us. And we'll see you all again soon. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye, guys.
See you.